Greetings and salutations, friends and gamers of all stripes. My name is GM Dave. I am your man behind the screen. And today, I want to talk to you about bad advice. And bad decision making. But first, look at that sky. God damn, that looks incredible. Yeah, so I'm sure you can kind of tell it's... Well, I guess it's not really early morning anymore. It's more mid-morning. I'm getting up towards mid-morning. A little overcast where I'm working today, and it's creating this awesome effect in the video. It looks really cool on my phone, seeing everything silhouetted against that sky. Anyway, a little bit of context for what led to me thinking to do this today. A couple of days ago, while I was roaming around on Facebook, yeah, I know, I still have a Facebook account. What the fuck am I thinking? Honestly, I am one of those guys that's in that situation where, oh, you know, I've got friends and family who use Facebook and just will not move anywhere else. No matter how much I tell them, hey, here's another site, it does the same kind of thing, but better. They won't use them. Oh, I mean, I've already got my Facebook account. Say, okay, whatever, guys. So fine, fuck it. I keep my Facebook account open, even though I absolutely hate Facebook. I keep it open to keep in contact with friends and family that I don't have frequent contact with, who refuse to use anything else. But that does afford me the opportunity to every now and then kind of peruse the different tabletop RPG groups over there. And this particular story came from the Pathfinder RPG group, or, well, not the Pathfinder RPG group, but one of the Pathfinder RPG groups on there. Long story short, a player was asking for a suggestion on how to build a ridiculous character. And he was asking for that suggestion because his previous character had died in-game. The character he wanted to build was, I want to say it was like a Titanic Mauler barbarian who was going to wield a pair of dwarves as his weapons. I believe it was wield a pair of dwarves who themselves were wielding axes, and the idea was that basically his swings were helping them get their swings. Really just ridiculous idea. He was obviously being very trolly and absurd and just wanted to do something kind of lighthearted and funny. But the reason for that is the previous character he had, who was more serious, got killed in game. Now, his character getting killed in and of itself, not a big deal. The big deal comes from why his character was killed. His character was killed not because of a bad decision he made in-game or because it would be fitting for the story. No. His character was killed because the GM decided, oh, your character's too strong, and he's outshining all the other players. I can't have that, so I need to kill your character. According to this player, his GM actually told him this. I can't begin to tell you how completely wrong that is. For me especially, I mean, you guys who watch me know by now what my philosophy with gaming is. You know, I'm all about, it's fun for the group, make the group better, but the group includes everyone at the table. This GM has now singled out this one player for playing his character really well, and this player admitted, oh yeah, you know, my character was kind of outshining everybody, because I built them really well. And according to him, they had one other player who was working really hard to build their character well. I believe he and the other player were both spellcasters. They had it was an Unchained Rogue, I think. He said it was an Unchained Rogue who was building their character really well. They had another spellcaster who was not doing so great because that player was a bit more new, if I remember correctly. And then they had a druid who, according to him, was intentionally hamstringing himself. He was building a poisoner druid that was intentionally built badly, at least according to him. I don't understand why you would want to do that, but hey, whatever. Play how you like. That's fine by me. I don't see how that would be fun, and I have to imagine that this player is probably regretting his decision to intentionally build his character badly, given that, he's being outshined by half the party. But hey, that was his choice. However, the GM deciding that the way to fix this problem is to kill the most powerful character in the party. Now, dude, inexperienced or not, and this guy is inexperienced. According to this player, this GM is a bit inexperienced. He's kind of new to GMing, relatively new to the hobby as well, if my memory serves me correctly. But inexperienced or not, that's not how you improve your table. That's not how you fix a power imbalance in your party. You don't take the axe to the person who is doing their best to play the game, who is doing their best to make the best character they can, to best support the party in the way they can. You don't improve your game by taking the axe to them and chopping their head off and then saying, okay, this character that you worked really hard on is dead. Make a new character because they were a problem, in my opinion. No, the problem is not with that character being too good. The problem is with the fact that the other players, one of them is inexperienced, so he or she is not really the best at building a character yet, and the other was building their character bad on purpose. You don't improve your table by taking an axe to the people who are working and putting their all into playing their character the best way they can. You improve your table by helping to uplift the players who are having a problem doing that. But in any case, this player, he had his character killed off by request of his GM. According to him, he was perfectly okay with it, which, hey man, if you're okay with it, you do you. It's your guys' table. I do still stand by that principle that, you do what you want at your table, but fuck, if I disagree with it, if I think what you're doing is a bad idea, I'm still going to call it out. And yeah, you better believe I think that this GM's decision was a bad idea. A very bad idea. That is so the wrong way to actually improve your game. But what's done is done. So he started working on a new character, something silly, and he wanted tips on how to optimize it. And based on the discussion I had seen, I didn't actually get involved in this particular one, but based on what I was reading in the discussion, a couple people in there brought up some good points that the player did not seem to fully realize, and he was being a bit defensive, being a bit in denial about the whole thing, but I think he started to kind of see that the other people who were talking to him were correct when they stated that the character he's building now might be silly and goofy and fun and lighthearted, but it's still going to end up with the same problem that his Arcanist had. His Arcanist that was just killed for being, according to the GM, too strong, for outshining the other players. He is looking to build an optimized, powerful barbarian who is going to do really well in his combat role and moderately well in a couple of roles outside of combat. That is then, probably because he's optimizing in a very particular manner, going to end up once more outshining the other players, which could very easily lead him into the exact same situation wherein the GM asks him to kill another character because, well, he's too strong again. And that leads me to a situation of bad advice. Over my years, I've heard some pretty terrible advice going across all the games I've played. And one of the worst I've ever seen, in fact, I would argue the worst I've ever seen, was GMs who would say that, oh, you know, when a GM comes to the table saying, hey, you know, I've got an issue with my party, they're a little bit too powerful, I'm having trouble challenging them, this and that. What can I do to challenge this party? I've got X, Y, Z, you know, ampersand characters. You know, they're all like 11th level. I've got a ranger, a rogue, a cleric, and a wizard, and they're all really good. You know, just throwing out a random assortment for a party. And for the most part, across the groups I've been in, I'll see people give advice like, oh, well, include enemies that are better at X to stop Y character. Like, say the ranger is great at, you know, archery. Say that's what he focuses on. Distance combat, archery, and range support. And then, you know, a little bit of support with their spells. Oh, well, you know, throw in a character with a high AC, so it's more difficult for the ranger to hit them. Or, oh, throw in a character that's got something like gloves of missile snaring, so that the ranger will have a more difficult time hitting them. You know, simple things like that. Or, oh, my wizard, his spells are a little too strong. Oh, well, throw in something like a golem that has magic immunity. Or, oh, you know, throw in a spellcaster that can cast counterspell, or throw up an anti-magic zone. Things like that. Ways to use the mechanics built in the game to counter other mechanics in the game, as you should be doing. Things that we as GMs can sometimes forget about when we're trying to set up our combats and our long-standing campaigns and so on and so forth. But every now and then, you'll get the one or two idiots out there, or the one or two assholes, who will say, oh, well, I mean, you know, if they're at that level, there's just really nothing you can do. The best thing to do would just be to find a way to TPK them. I'm just going to let that sink in for a little bit longer. Yeah. There are GMs out there that will tell you, unironically, oh, you've got this problem with your party? Well, just TPK them and start fresh. Excuse me? What? Did you seriously just tell me to kill my players? Basically end the campaign, kill my players? Because they're a little more powerful than I expected? Are you fucking stupid? Don't answer that. That's a hypothetical. I do honestly think anybody who would say that is fucking stupid. No ifs, no ands, no buts. If you unironically think the proper solution to deal with a party that's more powerful than you expected is to just kill the party instead of learning to get better yourself, you're fucking dumb. I needed to change the way you're thinking. Now, I'll grant, I don't see that very often anymore. A few years ago, and by a few years ago, we're talking between 5 to 10, I would see it more frequently. But nowadays, at least from what I've seen, from the circles I've traveled in, that kind of advice, unironically, has seemed to fall out of favor. Ironically, I still people saying it all the time. I see people saying that sarcastically all the time. You know, but being serious about it, it's not too often anymore, which is good. Still, though, the fact that there are GMs still out there who would unironically, suggest that, and the fact that there are GMs out there, even inexperienced, like the one mentioned at the start of this video, who would kill the player that is working the hardest to make the best character and they can, both in terms of roleplay and mechanical efficiency. Well, that tells me that this is still an issue that needs to be talked about. This is still an issue that needs to be hammered out. because clearly it's still a problem. Smaller problem than it was, again, at least from what I've seen. I can't say for sure that this really is a smaller problem than what it was, but from what I've seen, it is. But nevertheless, it is still an issue, and it is still something that needs to be addressed. So, that's it. This is me addressing that issue. What are your thoughts on this? I know I usually tend to be with things like this, with, the whole idea of like, oh, well, this group and this table is doing X, Y, Z. Or with other people giving advice too, I tend to be a little bit more of a fence sitter. And I do that because I can usually see the argument on both sides. I am very good at looking at an argument and seeing the pros and cons of either side. And just because, don't mistake that, just because it seems like I'm a fence sitter with some of the stuff, that doesn't necessarily mean I am. I usually will end up picking a side, and it's usually going to be the side that, at least in my opinion, seems to have more validity to the argumentation they're making. But in this case, there is no argument to make. If you are killing one of or all of your players because as a GM you can't figure out how to handle a certain way that they're doing things, if you're unironically jumping to suggestions that a party be TPK'd, that everyone in the party be killed, and that's good. I'm glad I wasn't in that lane. That was just an accident. Fender bender for people not paying attention. Gotta love that Southern California traffic. But anyway, as I was saying, if you would honestly suggest, unironically, that a GM should TPK their party because they can't quite figure out how to handle a character or characters that are more powerful than they expected, or if you would unironically suggest that a GM straight up kill a certain character because you can't think of a way, or as the GM, if you would unironically think that it's a good idea, I should say, to kill one of your party's characters because you can't think of a way to figure out how to, handle them being stronger than you expected, because you can't be asked to go online or talk to someone else and be like, hey, I've got this character, this Arcanist, who's stronger, a lot stronger than I expected them to be. The player optimizes them really well, and I'm not really sure how to handle it. This is what level the party is. This is the composition. Some of the other players are being outshone. And then give the details. Admit that, hey, one of them, though, this druid, he's being outshone because he's intentionally building his character badly. What should I do to balance this out? How should I, what should I do to help, help my party be on a more level playing field overall? Most people are probably going to tell you, help the players that aren't doing as well, build their characters better, and here's some suggestions for how to counteract that Arcanist. If you can't be asked to do that, you need to get out from behind the screen, because you're not fit to GM as far as I'm concerned, at least not yet. And if you can't learn the lesson that it is not okay for me to kill my players because I can't handle what they're doing, if you can't understand that it is on you to get better in those situations, not to force them to be worse, you're not fit to be a GM. And it's as simple as that. And I will not sway in this opinion. I tend to be fairly flexible in the ideas I hold, but this is not one of them. So with all of that said, friends and gamers of all stripes, my name is GM Dave. And as usual, I'd like to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this topic? Do you think that what this GM did is acceptable? And if so, why? Know that if you do think it's acceptable, I mean, you already are aware, I fully disagree with you on that, but make the argument to me anyway. If it is something that you agree with, if you think this is something that's acceptable, I'm still very interested in seeing any arguments as to why from anybody who might think that this is the case. I don't think it's acceptable, and I don't think you'll convince me, but maybe you'll get me to see another side of things that I didn't consider. And I'm always looking for that. So if you like this video, please feel free to leave a like, leave a comment below to share your thoughts. Like I said, I always enjoy having conversations on these videos, and if you would like to see more of my videos, please consider subscribing and hit that bell notification icon. More importantly than that, I ask that you head down to the description down below, open that up, and follow me on social media. It is the best way to get regular updates for when I post videos. You can follow me on 4 locations. You can follow me on Minds, Gab, Twitter, Facebook. Fair warning, I do not use Gab or Twitter for anything beyond just spitting out the fact that I've uploaded a vehicle for spitting up the fact that I've uploaded a video, because I just quite simply don't like the platforms very much. Actually, if I'm being honest, Twitter I absolutely despise, and I wouldn't use it at all if it wasn't for the fact that, dying though it may be, it's still the size of the platform. Not for me, but, you know, whatever. Going beyond that now, I do also have a Patreon page. If you like what I do and you would like to support me financially, you can find a link for that in the description down below as well. I appreciate any and every donation I can get. But more than that, I just appreciate the fact that you're taking the time to watch this video today. And with all of that said, friends and gamers of all stripes, again, my name is GM Dave. I am your man behind the screen. And as usual, it is my sincere hope that you roll high, role play well, and game on.